Every day when I wake up trying to see your face, it could only have been you, no one in your place. Sometimes I feel it deep, so it's hard to say, but not today.
Hello and welcome back to our Married Life podcast, episode 4. Whoop, 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 whoop. I go by the name of Joshua.
My name's Chi Chi.
And we are married. Right, so this is episode 4. We don't know what's on the cards in front of us, but we're going to have fun having this conversation. Glad you guys are joining in with us. Let's get it. Chi's going first. Reveal the card. The top one. It's just the top, okay.
How does one define trust in a marriage? This episode is called Trust Issues. Whoa.
Trust issues. He didn't do that the last
He did.
time. No, he didn't.
He did.
No, he didn't.
He absolutely did.
He did. He didn't last time.
You know he did.
Anyways.
I can guarantee I've listened to that song more than you. We can play it later.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it, honestly. As I define trust in a marriage, this question is kind of like, it defined by trust. And what I mean by that is like, so I say trust is a choice in certain situations. I think, for example, it's like, I don't think a marriage or relationship can work without trust. Do you know what I mean?
I don't even think in dating and well, this is.
So I'm saying in marriage or relationship, it can't work without trust. You know what I'm saying? If you don't trust your partner, you don't trust what they're saying, you don't believe them, you don't like trust them to treat you a certain way, I guess. But yeah, I don't think a relationship can survive without trust. Like if you're always doubting your partner, always questioning what they've got to say, like you're not believing what they've got to say, like it's just not gonna work. So I think similar in marriage, it's just like you need to trust your partner. You need to I think we have a baseline of trust anyway. There's sometimes when we're like, you know what, but then I think that happens rarely. It doesn't really happen often.
I think a couple of things. So I think it's different for men and women. Mm-hmm. I also think that you also cannot trust your partner if you don't have a certain base level of or sense of security in yourself or a certain level of self-worth, because ultimately your brain will be wired to view things in a certain way. So I also think in a marriage, trust is defined by the non-violation of boundaries. And I think that when you have high self-worth, you're able to create parameters and boundaries around certain behaviours. And I think that you have to trust your partner not to violate those boundaries, because they have respect for you and you have respect for them. And I think that those boundaries cannot be very arbitrary. And because some people, for example, this is something yesterday, some people might think it's cool to text the opposite sex at 11 p.m. We're not sleeping together. That's just my friend. That's just my female friend. I don't see it as anything. But another person will feel the type of way, you know? So at the end of the day, it's like when your phone goes off late at night, I don't expect it to be a female. And I don't think you're violating those boundaries. Do you know what I'm saying? Not that that's not something that you would set up for yourself, but I'm just saying I trust that whatever you're doing on your phone, I've never, ever, we've only been together 4 years, I have never like picked up your phone, gone through your messages and been like, that's not, do you know what I'm saying? So there are boundaries and expectations that allow you to give each other free will, free reign to do whatever, but those boundaries not being violated reinforces trust, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think going off the point that you say, we had a discussion about this like a couple of days ago, or was it yesterday, like as regards to Another podcast I listened to, Tim Ross, The Basement, really good podcast, talking about like men exhibiting behaviors that trigger insecurities in women in terms of like trust, and them saying potentially like, oh, I can't trust you because this is triggering this potential insecurity in me, or this is triggering this, and how the man goes about it, and vice versa. And vice versa, so I have to make sure it's vice versa. And I think my point was the person was speaking in regards to, yeah, like watch your behavior, like make sure you're not doing things that are triggering these things. Like you got with this woman, yes, you wanted this fine woman, but she comes with like this baggage and so forth. And my point was like, yeah, 100% agreed. I just hope that he says the other side, which is that sometimes insecurities in a person can lead to them like pushing back on someone, slowly creeping in control over a person, and that person needs to know that it's a balancing game, or it's like it's a discussion, it's a fluid thing, it's a moving thing where it's like, yes, there are some situations where you kind of curtail and you're like, you know what, okay, I hear that, I respect that, I will do this. And other times you need to push back on the insecurity and say, listen, this is who I am, this is the person, this is how I live, this is how I move. I'm in a relationship with you, chosen you, etc., etc. And trust, I said earlier, trust sometimes becomes a choice. It's like, yo, you need to trust, because I can't remain in a space that is so filled with a certain energy because of insecurities, because of a lack of trust, and continue to survive, continue to thrive even. So I just want the balancing act of, yes, sometimes it's action to be curtailed, but other times it's to be pushed back upon and been like, yo, I need you to address these things because I need you to trust. We need to have trust in the relationship or it's not going to work. So, but yeah, ultimately, I think it's important. And I think it's just a foundation, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but trust is built. I think trust is built over time, and it's built by doing what you say you're gonna do, continuously showing up for your partner, continuously respecting your partner in their absence, and orientating yourself in a way. It's not just about infidelity. Violations of trust can be financial violations of trust. It can be like a myriad of things. Do you know what I mean? It can look like keeping secrets from your partner. So if you don't have like a built up level of integrity within your relationship or within a marriage, that can be really hard. I would caveat that to say marriage is very, very difficult anyway. It's a difficult stage. It's a rewarding, but it's not easy at all. So trust is it's critical, because there's just so much to get on the same page about. So you have to kind of have that knowledge that your partner has your best interests at heart and orientates themselves in that way, because the intention is not good enough. The action is really important.
No, agreed.
Okay.
Brilliant. All right. So, question 2. Does your ability to trust depend on your background and upbringing?
I think so. Not depend on, but it heavily influences it, because people bring trauma to their relationships.
Yeah.
And the first relationship you see is the one in your household. And then if you don't have a relationship...
i.e. your parents.
Yeah. And if you don't have a relationship in your household, or if you come from a single parent household, you're gleaning from many aunties, uncles, like you're taking in all this information.
Gleaning from like TV shows, films,
maybe
movies,
your environment.
School.
But upbringing is critical, because even the desire to marry comes in a large part as well from, or the desire not to marry can come from seeing a positive relationship in your household or seeing a negative relationship in your household.
True.
And even if you had a if you had a negative relationship in your household, you might have the motivation to say, you know what, when I grow up, I'm going to do it a certain way.
True.
I'm going to do the work. I want my kids to grow up in a certain type of household that I didn't get to grow up in. Or it can go the other way, where you're like, I don't want anything to do with this institution whatsoever. And you bring that to relationships and say, you know, this is what my dad did, or this is what my mom did, or this is the type of relationship they had. So therefore, I don't want to commit. I don't want to, you know, get involved in that. But there comes a point that if you choose to be in a serious relationship, you have to do a certain amount of internal work. Actually, the internal work is probably always ongoing, because you never reach, you know, the apex of self-actualization. It's always an ongoing journey. So I think in a marriage, you cannot say it depends on it. If you've got trauma, you have to, like, I'm a big Charlemagne the God fan. And he always says, like, you've got to deal with your trauma before it deals with you. And that's super important, because in every situation, you're going to be faced with multiple situations in a marriage, and we're very, very early on. So as I always say, this is not advice. This is just my opinion. Yeah, like, you're going to bring that way of dealing with things, that vantage point that may be toxic, but it's not good enough to say, you know what, this is what I know, this is how I am. You have to kind of be committed to evolving.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Background definitely impacts your ability to trust. I think a lot of the time it comes from, like, parents. I feel like the woman's a lot of time affected by the dad and how the dad moves. I know both. And the guy as well, even though the guy might seem like less like he's conscious of it or so forth, but they're both affected. And I think what happens is you grow up and you're like, you almost template relationships by what you've seen, and what you've seen, the mirror of you. So let's say for me, my dad, Uchi, her mum, do in the relationship, and then template accordingly. And relationships can form like that. And I think it takes a journey to understand, okay, this might not be the best orientation, or it might be the best orientation depending on what you've seen growing up and so forth. So definitely, I think it impacts your ability to trust. Seen people, I met people who've had cheeky relationships with their parents, or like just upbringing and so forth. And it means they just really can't trust, like they can't get over like potentially like insecurities, or see the person in front of them for who they are. Sometimes the other person can have like a bit of a savior complex because of who they've seen or what they've seen in their relationships back at home. And there's loads of things that stem from that. So I think it kind of encourages or kind of puts focus on the power of a healthy relationship at home, and modeling that for children, and then also doing the work on yourself and being ready to like kind of face uncomfortable things, uncomfortable situations, and grow as a result of that. Like, I'm big on like that personal growth piece and that emotional growth piece, and like doing the work within yourself to be, I don't say your highest self, but the best version of you. The version that like is a soul and work through traumas, work through this, work through that, and come out on the other side and is like seeking to continue to be the best version of himself. Like, yeah, I really, really, really resonate with that. So yeah, I definitely think background impacts it.
Yeah, no, totally.
Every day when I wake up trying to see your face, it could only have been you, no one in your place. Sometimes I feel it deep, so it's hard to say.